I am Brenda Morgan, 34 years old, and just before that, my hard-earned executive career would become my greatest burden. The house I'd inherited from my beloved grandfather, a sanctuary I'd poured my heart into maintaining, became the center of a family invasion when my mother Dolores and brother Vernon demanded I host their unannounced reunion. My refusal earned me a sneer from Dolores, her lips curling as if I'd spat in her coffee. "You've always been selfish, Brenda," she snapped, as cousins and aunts shuffled awkwardly, their eyes darting to the floor. I didn't crumple. Instead, their dismissal lit a fire in me. My decision to take back my life would reshape everything. My family never saw me. Growing up, I was the odd one, chasing corporate dreams while Vernon's predictable accounting job earned him endless praise. I clawed my way to VP at a tech firm, but at every holiday, my promotions were glossed over, my mother waving her hand like I'd mentioned the weather. This house, Grandpa's gift, was my refuge, a Victorian gem with creaky floors and his old jazz records still stacked by the fireplace. I'd spent weekends polishing its banisters, planting roses in the yard, making it mine. Yet, Dolores treated it like her personal venue, and Vernon, with his smug grin, acted like he deserved a key. That day, landing early from a deal-closing trip in Seattle, I found cars clogging my driveway, music blaring, and strangers spilling beer on my porch. My stomach knotted as I gripped my suitcase, realizing this wasn't just a party. It was a violation. They'd crossed a line and I was done being their doormat. My resolve hardened. I'd protect what was mine no matter the cost. But before I tell you how I fought back, let me know where you're watching from and hit subscribe if you've ever stood up to family, because you have no idea what I'll do once I take. The suitcase wheels squeaked as I dragged it across my porch, the party's noise pounding through the walls. My mind drifted to years of being invisible. At 16, I'd won a national debate championship, trophy gleaming on our mantel, but at dinner, Dolores gushed over Vernon's C+ in math, framing it like he'd cracked quantum physics. "He's so practical," she'd beam, while my award got a curt nod. I'd bite my lip, forcing a smile, hoping one day they'd see me. They never did. By 25, I'd landed my first corporate gig, working late nights to prove myself, but at Thanksgiving, Vernon's new car lease stole the spotlight. "A real man's choice," my Uncle Clyde crowed, as I sat there, my promotion announcement wilting in my throat. I'd learned to swallow the hurt, but it festered. Family gatherings were a parade of slights, my cousins, Marla and Duane, asking why I wasn't married yet, their smirks cutting deeper than the question. "You're too busy for love, huh, Brenda?" Marla once teased, while Dolores chuckled, never defending me. I'd grip my fork, knuckles whitening, and change the subject. Grandpa was the exception. He'd pull me aside, his calloused hands warm, and whisper, "You're a force, Brenda. Don't let 'em dim you." His house, this house, was his legacy to me, a reminder I was enough. But even that they tainted. Last Easter, Vernon borrowed Grandpa's old radio for his apartment, never returning it, and Dolores shrugged it off. "Family shares," she said, as if my boundaries were a suggestion. Standing on my porch now, staring at the chaos they'd unleashed, those memories burned. They'd always taken, never given, and I'd let them. Not anymore. I pushed the door open, heart racing, ready to face the storm inside. The door swung open, revealing a sea of relatives trampling my hardwood floors, but my mind was elsewhere, replaying the secret I'd built. 2 years ago, I'd pitched a risky software overhaul to my company's board, my palms sweaty as I clicked through slides. They'd hesitated, too expensive, too bold, but I'd stayed late, refining data, countering doubts, until they greenlit it. The project became my obsession. 4 a.m. coding sessions, coffee-stained notebooks, and quiet victories when modules clicked into place. Last month in Seattle, I'd sealed a $10 million partnership to roll it out nationwide. My boss Nadine had hugged me, whispering, "You're a game-changer, Brenda." I'd grinned, exhaustion fading, knowing this deal would cement my name in the industry. I hadn't told my family. Why bother? They'd never cared about my work, always framing it as Brenda's little desk job. Vernon once scoffed, "You just push papers, right?" while Dolores nodded, distracted. I'd stopped trying to explain. This triumph was mine, locked away like a treasure they'd never touch. Standing in my foyer now, I saw my cousin Marla spill wine on Grandpa's rug, her laugh grating. My chest tightened, not just at the stain but at the years of their disregard. This house, my success, They were sanctuaries they'd never respected. The deal's signing bonus, wired that morning, sat in my account, a quiet power. I gripped my phone, tempted to check the balance, like to anchor myself in what I'd earned. Instead, I shoved it in my pocket, dodging an uncle's clumsy hug. My success was a shield, but the chaos around me was a reminder. They'd always take until I stopped them. I scanned the room for Dolores, my jaw set, knowing this confrontation was long overdue. Dodging a cousin's elbow, I wove through the crowd, my stomach churning at the sight of my home in disarray. I was fresh off the Seattle high, the ink barely dry on my career-defining deal. But now I faced this. A family reunion I hadn't approved, sprawled across Grandpa's house. My flight had landed early and I'd hoped for a quiet night, maybe a glass of wine, jazz on the turntable, and a moment to savor my victory. Instead, I found my driveway jammed with cars, my roses trampled, and my living room a mess of paper plates and shouting relatives. Dolores hadn't even texted me. Vernon, lounging on my couch, hadn't bothered to call. They'd just assumed my house was theirs to commandeer. I paused by the staircase, fingers brushing the banister I'd refinished last summer, its gloss now scuffed by someone's boots. Tomorrow I'd meet Nadine to finalize the deal's rollout, a step toward a corner office. But tonight I was trapped in this chaos. My sanctuary violated. I spotted Dolores in the kitchen, laughing with Aunt Thelma, her hands waving like she owned the place. My brother Vernon, beer in hand, was charming a gaggle of cousins nearby. They hadn't noticed me yet, and part of me wanted to slip upstairs, lock my door, and pretend this wasn't happening. But that's what old Brenda would have done. Swallowed the disrespect, cleaned up their mess. Not now. My deal had sharpened my edges, given me a taste of control. I straightened, smoothing my blazer, and took a breath. This wasn't just about a party. It was about years of being taken for granted. I stepped toward the kitchen, my heels clicking on the floor, ready to face Dolores and demand answers. The kitchen smelled of burnt casserole and cheap beer as I approached Dolores, her back to me, mid-laugh with Aunt Thelma. My heels clicked louder, but she didn't turn. "Mom," I said, voice steady despite the knot in my chest. She glanced over, her smile fading to a thin line. "Brenda, you're early," she said, like I'd crashed her party. Thelma raised an eyebrow, muttering, "Always so serious." I ignored her, scanning the counters. My granite was sticky with spilled soda, a chip in the edge I hadn't noticed before. "Why's this happening in my house?" I asked, hands on hips. Dolores waved a hand, dismissive. "It's a family reunion, Brenda. Lighten up." Cousin Marla sauntered in, balancing a plate of wings. "Yeah, Brenda, don't be such a buzzkill," she chimed, smirking as she brushed past, knocking my shoulder. My jaw clenched, but I kept my eyes on Dolores. "You didn't ask me. This is my home." She rolled her eyes, grabbing a napkin to dab her fingers. "It's Grandpa's house, Brenda, family property." Her words stung, like I was just a caretaker, not the owner who'd paid the taxes, fixed the leaks, loved every inch. Vernon appeared, leaning against the fridge, his grin lazy. "What's the big deal, sis? It's one night." I pointed at the living room where Uncle Clyde was grinding pretzels into my rug. "Look at this mess. You think I'm cleaning it?" Vernon chuckled like I was a kid throwing a tantrum. "You're too uptight," he said, sipping his beer. Their casual contempt burned, each word a reminder of years spent sidelined. I balled my fists, nails digging into my palms, and realized this wasn't just about tonight, it was the final straw. I turned to Dolores, voice low. "We need to talk now." Dolores sighed, tossing her napkin on the counter, and followed me to the dining room, where the noise dulled slightly. Vernon tagged along, still clutching his beer, his smirk grating on me. I faced them, the chandelier casting shadows on Grandpa's oak table, now littered with plastic cups. "You can't just take over my house," I said, voice tight. Dolores crossed her arms, her silver bangles clinking. "Brenda, stop making a scene. We're family. This is what family does." Her tone was sharp, like I was the one being unreasonable. I gestured at the chaos beyond the doorway, cousins shouting, a kid smearing cake on my wallpaper. "This is disrespect, Mom. You didn't even ask." Vernon snorted, leaning back in a chair. "It's just a party, Brenda. You act like we burned the place down." I spun on him, anger flaring. "You've damaged my home, Vernon. My home, not yours." He raised his hands, mock surrender, but his eyes glinted with amusement. Dolores stepped closer, her voice dropping. "You've always been so possessive about this house. Grandpa would have wanted us here, celebrating. Her words twisted the knife. She knew how much Grandpa meant to me, yet used him to justify this invasion. I swallowed hard, my throat tight. Grandpa left it to me because he trusted me to protect it, not to let you trash it. She scoffed, turning away like my feelings were irrelevant. You're overreacting, she muttered, heading back toward the kitchen. Vernon followed, tossing a chill out over his shoulder. Their dismissal was a punch to the gut, confirming what I'd always feared. I was invisible to them, my boundaries a joke. I stood alone, hands trembling, the weight of years of their disregard crashing down. I wasn't just fighting for my house, I was fighting for myself. My hands shook as I stood in the dining room, Dolores and Vernon's footsteps fading into the party's din. Their words echoed, overreacting, possessive, chill out, each one a brick in the wall they'd built to keep me small. I leaned against Grandpa's table, the wood cool under my palms, trying to steady my breath. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket, sharp and insistent. I pulled it out, seeing Nadine's name on the screen. My heart skipped. I stepped into the hall, away from the noise, and answered. Brenda, Nadine said, her voice bright. The deal's finalized. 10 million, signed an hour ago. You're a rock star. I froze, the words sinking in. My software, my gamble, had just made history. I mumbled a thank you, my mind racing as I hung up. Through the doorway I saw Dolores laughing with Marla, Vernon clinking bottles with Uncle Clyde. They had no idea what I'd built, what I'd just achieved. This house, their playground, was mine, earned through years of their neglect. The realization hit like a spark. They'd used me, this place, my silence, assuming I'd always bend. Not anymore. Nadine's call was a lifeline, proof of my worth they'd never seen. I straightened, my trembling hands steadying, and felt something shift inside me. Selling this house, cutting their access, wasn't just about protecting my space, it was about reclaiming my life. I pictured a cash buyer, a quick sale, the look on Dolores's face when she learned her free venue was gone. My lips twitched, a grim smile forming. I slipped my phone back into my pocket, the weight of my decision settling like armor. I wasn't the doormat they thought. I walked back toward the living room, my steps firm, ready to end this charade. The living room pulsed with laughter and clinking glasses as I stepped in, my resolve like steel. Dolores was holding court by the fireplace, regaling cousins with some old story, while Vernon sprawled on my couch, joking with Marla. I cleared my throat, loud enough to cut through the chatter. Heads turned, eyes narrowing with curiosity or annoyance. Everyone, listen, I said, my voice steady, louder than I felt. Dolores frowned, setting down her wineglass. Brenda, what now? She asked, exasperated. I ignored the jab, scanning the room, taking in their expectant faces. This ends tonight, I said, hands clasped to hide their slight tremble. You've trashed my home, disregarded me, and acted like this place is yours. It's not. Vernon snorted, but I pressed on. I'm selling the house. Cash buyer, quick close. You're done using it, using me. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Dolores's face reddened, her mouth opening, but I cut her off. For years you've dismissed me. My work, my boundaries, my worth. I'm done. I pointed to the scuffed floors, the stained rug. This is what you think of me. I'm choosing myself now. Marla whispered to Thelma, her eyes wide, but I didn't care. Vernon stood, his smirk gone. You're serious? Over a party? I met his gaze, unflinching. Over a lifetime, Vernon. Dolores stepped forward, voice low. You'd throw away family over this? I laughed, sharp and bitter. You threw me away first. The room went silent, their stunned faces blurring as I turned, grabbed my suitcase and walked out. The cool night air hit my face, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and freedom. I didn't look back, my steps echoing on the porch, knowing I'd just burned a bridge, and it felt right. The night air clung to me as I drove away, my suitcase rattling in the back seat. My phone stayed silent. No calls, no texts from Dolores or Vernon. Good. I didn't want their apologies, not yet. I pulled into the parking lot of a cozy diner across town, where my friend Shelley was waiting. Inside, the smell of coffee and fries wrapped around me like a hug. Shelley, with her wild curls and warm smile, waved me over to a booth. You look like you've been through it, she said, pushing a mug of tea toward me. I slid in, my shoulders loosening for the first time all night. I spilled everything. The reunion, the damage, my family's dismissal, and my bombshell about selling the house. Shelley listened, her eyes narrowing at Vernon's smugness, her hand squeezing mine when I mentioned Dolores's betrayal. "You did the right thing," she said firmly, stirring her coffee. "They don't get to walk all over you." Across the table, our friend Grover, a quiet guy with a knack for cutting through nonsense, nodded. "Family's not about blood, it's about respect. You've got us." His words landed soft but heavy, a contrast to the chaos of my relatives. Shelley leaned forward, her voice bright. "You're free now, Brenda. What's next?" I sipped my tea, the warmth spreading through me. For the first time I saw a future unburdened by their expectations. We laughed about small things, Grover's bad dating stories, Shelley's new pottery hobby, and I felt lighter, grounded. This was what family could be. People who saw me, who cared without strings. As we paid the check, Shelley hugged me tight. "You're enough, Brenda. Don't forget it." I stepped back into the night, their voices echoing in my head, a shield against the family I'd left behind. The diner's glow faded as I drove home, the city lights blurring past. My phone buzzed relentlessly now, texts from Dolores, Vernon, even Marla, all pleading or accusing. "How could you do this to us?" Dolores wrote, as if I'd torched their world, not mine. Vernon's message was blunt. "Selling's a mistake, Brenda. Call me." I deleted them, my grip tight on the wheel. By the time I reached my hotel, I couldn't face the house yet, my inbox had more. I ignored them, but their words gnawed at me, testing my resolve. In my room I sat on the stiff bed, laptop open, researching cash buyers. A local investor, Harlan, had a solid rep. Quick closings, fair offers. I emailed him, my fingers steady as I described the house. 4 bedrooms, Grandpa's oak trim, the rose garden I'd tended. Sending it felt final, like signing away a piece of my heart, but also like shedding chains. My phone lit up again, Dolores calling. I let it ring, then blocked her number again. Vernon's too, Marla's next. Each tap was a brick in a new wall, one they couldn't climb. I wasn't cruel. I'd hear them out eventually, but on my terms, not theirs. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Shelley's words from the diner echoed, "You're free." But freedom felt raw, like a fresh wound. I pictured Dolores's face when she learned the house was sold, Vernon's smugness crumbling. They'd try to guilt me, maybe show up at my office. I'd be ready. No more open doors, no more bending. If they wanted me in their lives, they'd have to respect me first. I closed my laptop, the decision settling in my bones. This wasn't just about the house. It was about teaching them I wasn't invisible. For the first time I slept soundly, dreaming of a life I'd build alone. Morning light filtered through the hotel curtains as I sipped coffee, my laptop humming with purpose. The sale was moving fast. Harlan, the buyer, had replied overnight, offering a fair price with a closing date next week. I accepted, my fingers steady, knowing this was more than a transaction, it was a reclaiming. My family's hold on Grandpa's house, on me, was ending. But I wasn't done with his legacy. During a break from emails, I sketched out a plan I'd been mulling since the diner. A foundation in Grandpa's name, funding scholarships for kids like me, dreamers overlooked by their families. My deal's bonus would seed it, turning my success into something bigger than their dismissal. I pictured the announcement, not for Dolores or Vernon, but for the community Grandpa loved. I'd hosted at the local library, where he'd taken me for story hours, his laugh filling the room. The foundation would be my mark, proof I could honor him without clinging to a house they'd tainted. My phone stayed quiet, blocked numbers meant no more desperate texts, but I caught myself glancing at it, half expecting a new plea. Nothing. Good. I didn't need their approval, but the silence stung, a reminder of how little they'd fought to keep me. I pushed the thought aside, focusing on the foundation's mission statement, typing words like empowerment and resilience. My hands paused, a memory surfacing, Grandpa's voice calling me a force. This was what he'd meant, not enduring their slights but building something they couldn't touch. By afternoon I'd drafted a proposal, my excitement growing. The house sale would free me, but this foundation would redefine me. I wasn't just Brenda, the invisible daughter. I was Brenda Morgan, building a legacy on my terms. One that echoed Grandpa's faith in me, not their neglect. The hotel room felt quieter now, the hum of the city outside a soft backdrop as I sat by the window, a notepad in my lap. Harlan had sent the final sale papers and I'd signed them an hour ago, the house officially slipping from my hands. It hurt, like losing Grandpa all over again, but it also felt right, like shedding a skin that no longer fit. I traced the pen's edge, my thoughts drifting. For years I'd tied my worth to their approval. Dolores's rare nods, Vernon's half-hearted claps at my successes. I'd thought if I worked harder, shone brighter, they'd see me. They never did. But sitting here I realized I didn't need them to. My value wasn't in their eyes, it was in the deals I'd closed, the foundation I'd built, the life I was choosing. I thought of Shelley and Grover, their laughter at the diner, their belief in me. They were my family now, alongside Nadine's mentorship, Harlan's fairness, even Grandpa, gone but alive in my choices, was enough. I didn't hate Dolores or Vernon. I hoped one day we'd talk, maybe rebuild something honest. But I wouldn't wait for it. I stood, stretching, and looked out at the skyline. The weight of their dismissal was gone, replaced by a peace I'd earned. I was Brenda Morgan, 34, a force, just as Grandpa said. My story wasn't about revenge, it was about standing tall, building a life that screamed, I am enough. Have you ever had to redraw a line to protect yourself? I've been there. And it's hard, but freeing. Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear how you found your strength. If my journey resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to define success on their own terms. You're not alone in choosing yourself. Keep building, keep shining, you've got this.